Listen now to the gospel of Jesus Christ according to Luke, the 12th chapter, verses 13 through 21. You will find this reading on page 1617, 1617 in your pew Bibles. And I encourage you to turn to that because I am reading today from the Message, the MSG translation of the Bible. So you might want to see what it's saying in the NIV that you have, as opposed to the more modern contemporary language of the Message. The story of the greedy farmer. Someone out of the crowd said, "Teacher, order my brother to give me a fair share of the family inheritance." He replied, "Mister, what makes you think it's any of my business to be a judge or mediator for you?" Speaking to the people, he went on, "Take care. Protect yourself against the least bit of greed. Life is not defined by what you have, even if you have a lot." Then he told them this story. The farm of a certain rich man produced a terrific crop. He talked to himself, "What can I do? My barn isn't big enough for the harvest." Then he said, "Here's what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger barns. Then I'll gather in all my grain and goods, and I'll say to myself, 'Self, you've done well. You've got it made, and now you can retire. Take it easy and have the time of your life.' Just then, God showed up and said, 'Fool, tonight you die, and your barn full of goods, who gets it?' That's what happens when you fill your barn with self and not with God." My friends, this is the good news. I hope this is on. Yes. Okay. I want to begin this morning by thanking the session and the worship committee and you, the members of Grove, for allowing me to fill the pulpit this morning. I am filling the pulpit even now. I'm down here. And I thank you. It is an honor and a privilege. Lately, as I have grown older, I've been thinking a lot about my own parents and wondering how they would respond to today's world. I have no problem thinking that my mother loved my father dearly, but she could get very upset with him from time to time. And let me tell you about what made her very angry. My father had a trench coat, a tan. You remember Columbo, the detective? You remember his? Except my father's was as wrinkly and crumpled, but my father's had a belt, and so it wasn't hanging open like it did for Columbo. Well, you can imagine, no amount of washing could return my father's trench coat to its original size, yes, and to the way it looked originally. And my mom would say, You know, when you wear that out in the public and people see you, they're going to think, I don't care for you. I don't take care of you. And she would go out to Christmas and his birthday and buy new trench coats. But he would never ever wear those. Those are hanging in the closet because he had his coat. And let me tell you, I think it was comfortable, smells like him, it felt good. And he wore it to church, he wore it to the dentist, he wore it everywhere. Sometimes we find that there are things in life that are very dear to us, and we just don't want to get rid of. We just love having it around. And that's our stuff. We have a lot of stuff. Someone, a very dear relative of mine, told me that I am a hoarder. There is some truth to that. Hoarding is a terrible mental illness. And I don't need to make fun of it. I'm told that 4 to 6% of the population consists of hoarders. People who have so much stuff, they can hardly move. And stuff is something that's important to us from we're little children. Mom, Johnny took my stuff. And he's playing with my stuff. And I want to play with his stuff, but he won't let me. Because our stuff is so critically important to us. George Carlin, the comedian, once said that the only reason human beings have houses is so that they have a place to put their stuff. We have stuff to wake us up in the morning. We have stuff to put us to sleep at night. We have stuff for everything you can imagine. Now they have deodorant stuff for all parts of the body. We got so much stuff. To the extent that we have a TV show about hoarding. And many people watch it and think it's a comedy, but it's not a comedy. It's a serious human problem that we need to deal with. Jesus, in our gospel reading for today, is talking to the crowd as he often did. And while he's talking to the crowd, as you heard in the story, a young man yelled something out. And the young man said, "Hey, teacher, tell my brother to share the inheritance with me." He was saying to Jesus, I need more stuff. I don't have enough stuff. I want you to tell my brother to share it with me. And Jesus said, well, Jesus was teaching about greed. And Jesus said, it's not about how much stuff you got. It's about where your heart is. And how much you give to God. Maybe God should be your stuff. And we need to learn that lesson. Because it's critically important. You know what happens when our houses get so filled with stuff that we can't move? You can't open the front door because there's stuff blocking the door and you have to go around the back. And some of you are smiling. I see I know you have that drawer in the kitchen or someplace where you can hardly open. And it's got Scotch tape, some rolls, maybe some old green stamps. So it's got so much junk in it, you can't open it, but you know there's something in there that you need. And somehow you leave that drawer full of that stuff all the time. Because tomorrow you may need it. At least that's it for me. I confess, I am a bit of a hoarder. Not the kind where you stumble. When I was first married, we lived in a little tiny place. And when we went to bed at night, when we got up in the morning, we took everything off the bed and put it on the floor. Because we had a bed and a floor. And there was a wood heater in what was supposed to be a kitchen, and we would put the heat on, and the heat would all come into the so-called bedroom. And we didn't have anywhere to put our stuff. It was so debilitating. We didn't think we would make it. So many marriages and acquaintances are broken up. I put my stuff here. You put your stuff here. And don't you ever let me find your stuff and my stuff. And they break up. They divorce. Because they cannot handle the stuff. Jesus teaches in many places that we should not allow the things we accumulate to boss us. We should control them, and they should not control us. When Jesus sent the 70 out, he said, don't take anything with you. Don't take any stuff. No sandals, no coat, no nothing. What does it profit a man to gain the whole world, to have all the stuff he can, and lose his soul? I've come here today to tell you that Jesus wants you to have things. He wants you to be comfortable, to save money. He doesn't want you to overdo it. See, the problem with us is that it's hard for us to just do things a little bit. We've got to supersize it. To get bigger things. And Jesus told the story about a man who had a barn and it was full. It was a regular guy. He didn't mistreat his workers. He didn't put down God. He didn't do all of those awful things. He was an ordinary guy like any of us. He just had a lot of stuff. And the barn was bursting. The silo was bursting with grain. And he had so much stuff. He didn't know what to do. And so he spoke to himself. I want to point out to you how selfish this man is. He spoke to himself. He didn't speak with someone else. He said, self, what should I do? If you read the passage, he says, I 6 times. And my 5 times. He said, what should I do? And I answered him. His self answered him. And said, build bigger barns. We do that today. We go out and rent storage units, don't we? Sometimes we can't park the car in the garage because the garage is so full of stuff. So this man decided for himself to build bigger barns so that he could get more stuff. And on top of it, he wanted to have so much stuff that one day he could relax and eat, drink, and be merry and enjoy the stuff. And some of us look forward to that. I'm struggling today at my age, Do you give it to the kids now or leave it till you're gone? It's a tough decision. They're going to spend it in a day anyway. Right? Whether you get it now or later. I don't know. There's another thing. I think of Colombo again. One other thing. The man did not recognize that you can't take it with you. There's a story about a very rich man who told his wife, when I die, I want my millions in the casket with me. And when he died, he was laying in the casket and everybody was looking in, there was no money in it. And just before they closed the lid on the casket, his wife wrote a check for $1 million. Put it on his check. My friends, Jesus wants us to have abundance in our lives, but not the kind of abundance that overtakes us and keeps us away from the really important thing, which is love for one another, love for God. And what that man should have done was to give away some of his stuff. And I want you to know that when you give, that's when you feel joy. I went to Ghana. I took the largest suitcase I had, and I filled it with my stuff. And when I got to Ghana, I said, why? The airlines put a red sticker on it that said, hey. But luckily I wasn't flying economy and I didn't have to pay extra. So I had my stuff. A shirt for every day, a CPAP, underwear, shoes, socks. I had everything. I think I had 2 tubes of toothpaste, because sometimes you lose one, you know? So, and it was, my roommate had the same problem. And unlike the man in the story, we talked to each other. And he was much smarter than I am. So he said, you know what? We should give this stuff away. And we put our stuff on the bed, and we put a note. Take anything from here. And when we got back to the room, stuff was gone. And we had a note saying, thank you very much, you helped a lot. Giving away some sneakers and but the joy. I'll finish by saying, now I have an empty suitcase. What good is an empty suitcase? You've got to put stuff in it. So I went out and I bought stuff. And I filled the suitcase. And I loved it home. And having learned this lesson about giving, I took what I bought to my church. And I gave the women in the church these swaths of cloth. This fabric from authentic Ghana. Oh, you should see their faces. They just loved it. They were making plans about making dresses and tablecloths and curtains with this stuff. They just loved it. And to this day, I smile when I think giving away stuff is good. And finally, I don't want you to miss the point that you may not be here tomorrow. And you don't know when that moment will come. And Jesus wants you to take that very seriously. Give up stuff and prepare for going home to your Father. Jesus said, here I am, take my hand, And you say, tomorrow I'll take your hand. Tomorrow, well, I thought about today. It's so much easier to say tomorrow I'll give my life. Tomorrow, better choose the Lord today. For your tomorrow